I'm Clark Reehm with the Elite Angler Academy, where I teach anglers how to use technology and resources to find and catch more fish. Right now, it's actually Sunday night about 9:30, and tomorrow is the first day of my tour season, actually. Tomorrow starts the practice period for the MLF Pro Tour event at Sam Rayburn. As many of you know, I actually guide out here and teach most of my classes on Sam Rayburn here in East Texas. And so I've kind of been really looking forward to this tournament for a while. You know, we've been here now for 2 other tournaments in the last 5 years. The first time was a major debacle. It was actually one of the most humbling tournaments I've ever had because there was absolutely no local advantage. In fact, it was actually a disservice if you knew the lake because you tend to fish history and everything else. And the water came up like 12 feet and it kind of killed all the local advantage and actually hurt a lot of us that you would pick on your fantasy teams and everything else. The last time we were here, it was just kind of a neutral event. Water level was normal. Practice was phenomenal. I caught some giant fish, had a 10-pounder, 7 one day. I mean, it was a great practice. I could go anywhere pretty much and call my shot and catch quality fish. In the tournament, I couldn't get any big bites. It was frustrating. I catch 20, 25 keepers a day. Ultimately, I got a check for $10,000, but it wasn't a great tournament for me for as good as the practice was and the expectations. You know, I had multiple patterns running that I could do all over the lake, but I just never got any quality bites. And this year, it's actually looking like it's going to shape up to be the same way. Now, granted, I haven't been on the water in 2 weeks, but I've been monitoring tournament results and everything else. This weekend, there was a Bass Champs tournament. There was a Bass Federation Nation tournament or something of that nature on the lake. Last weekend, there was the Rattle Trap tournament. There was another cold tournament that some guys had. Then there was the BFL this year. And so looking at all those weights, knowing what all I know about this lake at this point, you know, this is kind of like a preview vlog for this week. You know, hopefully I can do a video every day this week based off of, you know, what I've seen in practice, what I'm doing, some of my thought processes. If you've got any questions that you want me to answer or things you want me to talk about, obviously without exposing myself too much, giving away too much information to other competitors that might see this or, you know, might hurt me, basically. I'll try and answer and get to those. Be sure to put them in the comments down below here. But this year's tournament is shaping up to not be the expectations that people that don't really know Rayburn, it's not going to shape up the expectations that people have. This lake seems to be on a downslide. At one point, it was a 10 out of 10 is what I would have rated it. But now we're probably looking at like a 6 out of 10. And it seems like there's a class of fish that's missing. And it just seems like those 3 to 5 pound, 3 to 6 pound fish just don't seem to be here anymore like they used to be. Therefore, the expectations for people that not in the know here at Rayburn are a lot less. Tournament results can verify that. You can look at last year's results and see, yes, there was outlier events. You know, Derek Mundy had 2 phenomenal tournaments in January last year. Everybody sees 40-pound bags, 30-pound bags. But in reality, there's very few 30-pound bags weighed in at Rayburn any year that I can speak of in the last 5 to 10 years that I've really been monitoring it all. And this year's not going to be any different. So one of the number one questions that I get asked by the other competitors in this event is, and this goes for any event, not just Rayburn, this is what we ask each other, but since I'm one of the locals here, I'm getting asked by a lot of guys, what's it going to take? And under the new format this year, they're actually zeroing out the weights for the final day. Everybody fishes the first 2 days, top 50 fish Saturday, top 10 fish Sunday, but they're zeroing out the weights for the top 10 day. So when somebody wants to know what's it going to take to win, you know, I've seen reports where people talk about, oh, it's going to take mid-20s to win, and I seriously doubt it. And I'll get to that here in just a second. But the first question people want to know is, what's it going to take to get a check? And I know this is going to sound ridiculous to a lot of people, but honestly, 23 to 24 pounds should win an angler $10,000. Now, hear me out. That's 2-day wait. That's not 1 day. That's 2-day wait. And you think, well, that's not hard to do. That's easy. Well, this lake, again, is missing a class of fish, it seems like, or multiple classes of fish. And I'm not a biologist, but from what I understand is the way fish grow, it can almost be attributed to those years that we had real high water, or the first initial years of it, which would be, I guess, 2014, 15 time frame when we started really getting high water in the spring. So I don't know if they spawned different, the water was high, if they got trapped out, they died out. I don't know. I'm not a biologist. That's just kind of an inference that I've made from being out here so much. But the lake is absolutely full of fish. It's full of 1.5 to 2.25 pounders. And so when you think, okay, it's gonna take 23 pounds for 2 days, that's 11.5 pounds. But when people go out fishing, they think, oh, I just caught a bunch of 2 pounders. And in reality, when you put those on the scale, which a tournament does through the course of a day, and weeding through all these fish, you've got a limit of these, 1.8, 1.9, 1.78. Oh, there's a 2.25, there's a cull, and so people get in that, 10 to 12 pound range, you get jammed up. And so it's going to take that kind of 23, 24 pounds. So 11.5, 12 pounds a day to make a $10,000 check, but they're paying $10,000 to 60th place. And that's out of 158 guys. So that's kind of my range for what I think I need to get a check. And you think, well, that ought to be pretty easy. You fish all the time. And yes, I catch a lot of fish here. And a lot of the guide hole type stuff that I go to, and I catch lots and lots of fish where they pile up on certain places, they might come into play, to get paid this week for me. I'm going to go out and graph tomorrow and check some of that out. The weather's supposed to be bad, but that's kind of one of those things that I've always got in my back pocket. I know from being out here, if they're not there today, when I graph it, doesn't mean they're not going to be there an hour from now or the next day or 3 days from now. It really doesn't teach me anything. But the weight I think that it's going to take actually, and this is the big one that everybody wants to know, is what's it going to take to make the final day on Sunday? Well, honestly, I think it's going to take 14 pounds a day. Okay, and that you think, well, that's Sam Rayburn. Oh, it's big bags, big bags. No, 14 pounds is not easy to get out here. It's not hard to get 10, 11, 12 pounds. 14 is tricky because you're not catching enough of those high twos to get a limit of, 14 pounds with all 2 3/4 pounders, or, all 3 pounders to get 15 pounds. The trend on this lake is you have to have a 4 or 5 pounder to get 14 or 15 pounds. And in reality, we have more days we don't catch a fish over 3 pounds out here. It doesn't matter how many you catch. It's a numbers game, basically. How many can you catch and hope to get a 4 or 5 pounder? But tournament results are showing that, from the BFL to the Bass Champs and everything else, it is showing that fish in that caliber, really aren't here real thick. And yeah, weights might show that some guys did well, but a lot of times you're not seeing the big one that was weighed in. Okay, and so if you don't get a big fish every day, you're probably not going to get 14 pounds a day. And in reality, very few people are going to get 14 a day. It's going to come down to most guys that are going to make the cut are going to have a day. They're going to have 16, 17 plus to make the cut. More than likely, there'll be 2 or 3 people that catch a fish between 7 and 10 pounds in the first 3 days, and they're going to ride that fish into a top 10 finish to make the final day. So one big kicker is going to carry you through 3 days. But 14 pounds a day is not very easy to do. And in fact, I'd go out on a limb and say the winner of this tournament is probably going to have a day they catch 12 pounds or less out of the 4 days, but it won't be the final day. As far as the final day weight, honestly, I could see a bag from 16 to 18 pounds winning on the final day, because you got to remember, there's 10 guys fishing on the final day, and the weights are zeroed. Well, at that point, a lot of these guys have beaten up their fish for 3 days, and they don't have enough fish to last the final day to excel beyond that. And so that's why, a bag in that 16, 18 pound range means that they caught a 5 or 6 pounder, which essentially means on the final day, it's going to be a big bass tournament, whoever catches a big one. Now, a couple of the factors that are going to play a big outcome in this tournament, and again, I'm kind of game planning for these scenarios, is the wind. Right now on Thursday, it doesn't look like the wind's going to be that big of a player. Friday, they're calling for 10 to 15 out of the northwest, and on Sunday they're calling for 10 to 15 out of the south, which means during those days it's going to blow right up and down the pipe of these deals. That'll make it a factor as far as being able to fish offshore. Another major factor is the lack of grass this year. There's only a handful of places that have grass. It is absolutely going to be a player, which was evident in the rattle trap tournament. Obviously guys probably did not catch them all around grass, but that is going to be a major player. There's going to be a lot of these guys that go look for grass and commit to it. Going to be a lot of chatterbait fish, a lot of rattle trap fish, things of that nature. It's probably an easier way to get a 4+ pound bite is going to be to go exploit that. It's not in my game plan. Again, if people know me, they know I don't fish grass. It's almost blasphemous for people to talk about that in East Texas, Rayburn, Toledo Bend, somebody not fishing hydrilla. That doesn't tend to be in my wheelhouse as much. Again, I'm more of an offshore guy, fishing hard spots and stumps and things. But the number one factor for this tournament that is going to play dividends and make all the difference in this event is pressure. And that pressure is going to be from other tournaments, other people fishing, everything else, our anglers, all of it. See, we get 2 days of practice, which is tomorrow and Tuesday. Wednesday is an off day. All the field, again, fishes the first 2 days, and then top 50 fish Saturday. Well, on Saturday, there's an outlaw outdoor team tournament. Rayburn has probably got more tournaments than any lake in the country, and there's not enough days on the calendar. So tournaments get booked at different times. There's conflicting events. There's people putting tournaments, smaller tournaments. The Outlaw Outdoors team tournament is one of the bigger circuits around here. It's going to have 200 to 300 boats in it, and most of the local hammers are going to be in that tournament. They also get to trailer in that event. And so therefore on Saturday, almost every major community hole type place, whether it be grass, spawning areas, major community holes like the Canyons, Harvey, Black Forest, Deer Stand, Veach, all these places are going to be covered up with tournament boats fishing a big tournament. I think the payout on that one's like $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, something like that. And so it's a major tournament. And we only have 50 guys, but you've got those 200 to 300 boats that are going to be out there prior to us getting there. So the weights are going to drastically drop on that day, on day 3. Plus you have to remember, we've got 50 boats as opposed to 158. So just for that reason alone, our weights are going to drop. And on that day, pretty much anything over 13 pounds is probably going to be a solid bag, and actually it's going to move you up in the standings for most people. The other thing is there's a high school tournament that I've heard is going to have 150 boats going out of Castle Boykin, which is kind of right smack dab in the middle of the community hole type zone on this lake. And so that's another 150 boats, for lack of better terms, clogging the lane, to use a basketball term, just more boats in the way. It's just more places where if you make a run and there's a guy sitting there, you got to keep moving, got to keep moving. The other factor is on Thursday and Friday is those people are also practicing. So that's more boats out there. They're watching guys. I'm not saying they're hole jumping, poaching, whatever else, but there's some people that will do that, and so that's more people that are on the water that'll also affect the outcome of the tournament, is they're going to see some of our guys. They're going to watch the live coverage, the live airing that gets going on MLF.com, or read the results, or come to the weigh-ins, or just see guys catch fish. And that's just what more boats in that area that are affecting the outcome of the tournament. Now, on Sunday, the final day, I've heard there's also another high school tournament. It'll have 100, 150 boats in it. And there's also another, I think it's a Lone Star Outdoors team tournament circuit that's starting up. And those are just the ones that I know of. There's probably a couple more. But the other big factor that day is that is the last day before the Brandon Belt tournament goes off limits. And if you don't know, that is a $100,000 team tournament that's going to go on the following week. It's a 3-day event put on by Brandon Belt and some guys out of Lufkin. Brandon is the first baseman for the San Francisco Giants. He is from the Lufkin area. He's got a big charity tournament, but it goes off limits on Sunday at midnight. So you're looking at 300 to 400 boats fishing that event that will also be out there practicing while we're there during our tournament days, pre-fishing days, everything else. So all that extra boat traffic, plus on Saturday the weather is supposed to be nice, so we're going to get just local traffic, people fishing, everything else. It is totally going to affect the outcome of this tournament, and that's the one major factor that's going to determine a lot of what happens those last 2 days. So I'm actually looking forward to it. I've got a lot of places. I've got, 10,000 waypoints on a unit. A lot of them are little isolated places, whether it's a stump or just a hard spot, roadbed spots, just all random little places. I do have some grass that's marked out. I've got some river stuff I might look at. I've got 2 days of practice. Tomorrow it's gonna rain all day. I'm gonna put in at the dam, go check a lot of this stuff. And I don't know how much fishing I'm actually gonna do. I'm gonna do a lot of graphing. If I see fish on certain stuff, I know they'll be catchable. I'm just looking to see what the shad are doing. I'm looking to see what fish might be using different stuff. And you'll hear people say, I eliminated water, when they're out there on a practice day. And in reality, when you have a lot of stuff on a lake like I do, I am eliminating water. I'd love to go tomorrow and just rule out certain things that might be in my brain to say, hey, I need to go check this or that. Or in the tournament, I need to run over there. I've caught this big one over here off this roadbed or off this rock pile, so I need to go fish that in the tournament. Well, if I go scout it, graph it, whatever, see there's not activity with shad, see there's not fish in the area, I can at least kind of rule it out and try and start narrowing down the zone of the lake that I want to focus in for the tournament. But at the same time, I'm going to try and stay pretty open with all the options that I have. Because again, it's going to be, fish what the day gives you, fish what the pressure allows you to do, what the conditions, the wind, everything else. So I'm just, trying to keep an open mind and not make any dumb mistakes. So, well, it's about time that I hit the bed. Again, it's about 9:45 now. I'm going to hit the upload on this deal. Be sure that you subscribe, hit the little notification bell if you want to see the rest of them. Every day this week, I'm going to try and put out a vlog about what I'm seeing. I might try and do 2 or 3. I know tomorrow I'm expecting a package from Sportsman's Outfitters. We're going to do a contest, for this deal. Trying to figure out what we want to do for the contest, but I've got a bunch of stuff we're going to give away. So if you're interested in checking this out and maybe learning a little bit about Sam Rayburn, tournament methodologies, my thought processes, or if you're just a fan of pro fishing, be sure to subscribe and follow along this week. I'm Clark Reehm, the Elite Angler Academy, and stay tuned. We're going to do some more.